Mr. Walton, did you make contact with aliens? Were you taken to another planet, to a mothership? How did they communicate with... Can you tell me what they look like? Can you tell me how many of them there were? Were you given food?
But the teachers are alive. They're not books. They are the very living essences of nature itself.
What a strange person.
Unbelievably powerful supercomputer that's running our reality, and we don't have a clue as to how to operate it.
So when maybe you or somebody else creates an AGI system and you get to ask her one question, what would that question be?
What's outside the simulation?
Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body, because I am more than physical matter. I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
All broadcasting from New York, upstate, near the Great Lakes, it's Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop, and we're live on the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting. It's October the 29th, Thursday night, on into Friday. Then we might get our first snow up here in New York. One more day until the Fringe Fest. Go to thefringefest.com. Make sure you sign up, get your tickets. Maybe we'll give away a pair of tickets tonight. Possibly. All the cool speakers that are coming: Clyde Lewis, Jordan Maxwell, Harold Counts, Kev Baker, Karen Dahlman, Jay Parker, Mary Ducina. God, who am I forgetting? There's so many freaking speakers. We got our own house DJ Steezy Stevie's going to be in the house. Also, country music singer Jason Benoit is going to be there. We're all going to be talking Halloween, spiritual stuff, occult stuff. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And then we're going to have like this kick ass party Saturday night. I don't know. I'm going to be like hosting the thing. So I don't know how much partying I'm going to be doing because I'm going to be pulling the strings, but it's going to be fun. You guys make sure you go sign up. You can get 15% off. Use the code word TRUTH. Do it now. Hurry, man. We only got so many tickets. They're going to sell out and the rooms are going to get full. And we're we're pretty close. We're almost, I don't know. I think we'll sell out by tomorrow. But if we do, and there's a whole bunch of people that wants to get in and enough of you let us know, we might do something. But go to thefringefest.com. Make sure you sign up. You're going to get access to a raffle. You're going to get access to the recording if you buy a ticket. You're also going to be able to access the event all weekend. It's going to be fun. And for all of you guys that have won tickets, congratulations. Also, check out the new Fringe FM app at the Google Play Store or your iTunes App Store or Amazon Alexa. Leave us a shout out. Use the alarm clock. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Yada, yada, yada. Blah. Right? Biggest shout out to the patrons of this show at Lighting the Void. Thank you guys so much for supporting this show. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your patience with me. I really appreciate all of you so much. All right. So we're going to have some funny bits too, man. You guys, I've been working on some stuff. A lot of us have been working on some stuff. You'll see. It'll be fun. Hope to see you there. So J.M. Debord's here with us tonight. We're going to talk about interpreting nightmares, Halloween symbolism, things like that. I'm starting to get in the Halloween spirit here. I still got a pumpkin sitting right behind me. I haven't even carved yet. I think if I get time, I'm going to carve it tomorrow. Probably. I don't know, because that would be like the biggest waste to go buy a pumpkin and I never carve it, right? So it's still sitting there in front of the TV. So I'm going to carve this thing, and then we'll put it up in the studio. All right, so J.M. Debord's back with us, and he's a renowned dream expert, author, and creator of Dream School, an interactive online learning place where he offers his ability to integrate the language of dream into our waking consciousness while mentoring with students and encouraging others to take a deeper look into the depths of their being. JM is also a Reddit moderator known as RadOwl and a popular media guest. You can go to his website at jmdebord.com, dreams123.net, and I know you got a new website, dude, because we talked about it last time. And Tim Pajo.
Yeah, Dreams123. Yeah, dreams123.com. That's kind of a theme. And it's my complete system or process of dream interpretation. So go to the front page and you can start from there and find all the various lessons. There's an entire book worth of material there, and it's all available for anyone that wants to dive into dream interpretation.
So let's get down to the nitty gritty here. Nightmares, right? This is, I'm sure, this is a thing that gets talked about quite a bit. Is here, I want to start it off with this before we get into like the Halloween symbolism of everything. When you have a nightmare, is it other things that are around you interacting with your dream? Now, to make this abundantly clear, if we can, or is it your higher self always talking to you regardless if it's a nightmare or not? Is it an outside energy or is it you?
It's you, usually. And in fact, in most of the cases where at places like Reddit, where I go around and see a lot of reports from people who say, you know, I woke up and there was this shadow figure. It was in the doorway, or it was standing, you know, hovering over me, or they have a dream that, you know, a nightmare that seems so real, and they are convinced that it was some kind of outside influence. And in most cases, I have found that the dreams could be explained or interpreted as conventional experiences. It's just that they are amplified. It's a dream on steroids in the emotion of it, how real that it seems and feels makes people confused. They really think that there is some outside force which is penetrated into their dreams. It's just the nature of the experience of dreaming. It does seem very real. And if you don't understand what's happening inside of you, you don't see it reflected in the content of the nightmare. But Joe, that is why, at least in part, you're having the nightmare, is because there is some part of yourself that is so dark within you. And I don't mean dark in a spiritual sense. I mean dark as in you just don't know anything about it. You're unaware of it. It's outside of your conscious awareness and control. So that is why it's presented to you as a nightmare. It's really trying to get your attention. And once you understand these parts of yourself, you shine the light of your awareness into the dark spaces inside of you, then you can see the connection between the nightmare and your interior life. Almost all dreams are projections of your inner world, like an interactive movie or a choose-your-own adventure. You are subconsciously creating the content of your dreams and then walking into it like an actor in a movie to participate in the story while forgetting that it's a dream. Now, having said that, and being very clear that most dreams are conventional experiences that come from within you, I do know that there are times when there can be outside energies and influences on your dreams. Most people are going to go through their lives and never experience it, Joe, or at least they won't experience it as a nightmare. It's what I find is it tends to be within communities of people who are exploring the other side, who are into the deep spiritual experience, who are into occult and esoteric, who are opening themselves to these energies, who are inviting these things into their lives. And that's when some of these experiences can be outside influences. I know a guy who was in an esoteric school who had a guru, just a teacher, somebody who was very advanced into their meditative and other practices that they were doing. This guru got upset with the student about something. He wouldn't tell me what it was, but he shared with me that the guru started entering into his dreams, and he said that it scared the daylights out of him. You know, he's projecting into the guru is projecting into the guy's dreams. And here's the thing. The dreaming mind translates that as it's information that's being received, and then it's translated based on how it is received and how it is perceived and how you feel in response to it. So it could turn into something that's very dark and scary if it is something that is very dark and scary to you. Something that another person could find to be kind of, ordinary might be something that scares another person. Like, let's say, for example, someone who is very adept at social situations. They walk into a room full of people, it's a party, and they're like, yeah, it's time to get down. I'm going to have fun with this. I know how to navigate these waters. Take the person who has social anxiety and put them into the same situation. They're going to perceive it very differently. And so if they dream about such a situation, it could be like a nightmare for them. But for the person who is adept socially, it's an ordinary dream. So it's a way of saying that your dreams reflect yourself back to you. And if you find something in your dreams that is like a nightmare, then it means that it's coming from a place within you, and you perceive it that way. It's not to say that it is that way objectively. You can also get into types of dreams where you have people who have, say, been in combat, repeatedly being, fighting for their lives, living through these traumas, and now they are re-experiencing these things as nightmares later, and sometimes with like a literal replay of situations they've been in, dodging bullets and, having to kill people. And, you're in combat, you're a soldier, so you've had these experiences and then you dream about them. And that can be real in a way that's, it's more than just subjective. It's objective, because what you experienced was that damn scary. But usually what you're experiencing in your dreams is subjective, and it's reflecting back to you the way that you perceive and the way that you feel.
Yeah, right. So it's something that it may feel like that there's an outside dark influence trying to torture you. The reason why I ask is because I got a couple of friends that, they constantly have bad, I'm talking about nightmarishly type dreams. And it's usually like some type of surprise where either they're like say, for instance, I know Amandala called in late the other night. We were talking about it. And I always try to figure this out too, because Ryan has this stuff happen. I've had it happen a couple of times too, actually here recently, which is weird. But where you like say you're following your cat outside or something like that, and it gets really eerie, and then all of a sudden, like your cat turns on you in like a demonic way. Or I know she was talking about the other night where you like walk, she kept having these, like, it feels like someone's watching her or trying to invade the dream or whatever, and she like faced this evil dead woman, and got to the point where you get frustrated with it, where you're like, you know what, I don't give a damn how scared I am about it. I want to face this thing. I got to. and goes and tries to walk towards it, and all of a sudden she gets like pulled away from her, you know, or something. And I don't know, I've had some kind of weird dreams too where I can't, like, anyways, I want to start with that. Like when you have recurring dreams where you're kind of being jump scared all the time, like something's just waiting to jump scare you. That's kind of trippy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are things that you can find within yourself that are, they can be scary. They can kind of come out of nowhere. That it's like the Jack in the Box. It's, you know, think of like something that could make your personality turn very quickly because you've been triggered by something. You're going along and it's just an ordinary day, and then the right person says the wrong thing, and you've just done a 180 internally. And or think of when everybody's probably experienced at some time in their life seeing someone's personality change. You get enough whiskey in them or something like that, you know, or trigger them, say the wrong thing to them, you know, and next thing you know, like, you know, it's Mr. Hyde coming out. That story, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, resonated with people because we've all experienced that. Most of us personally, and at least experienced it as in witnessing it, where that other darker side of a person comes out. So I would begin with someone, if they came to me with a dream like that, where there be like a jump scare, where things just suddenly turn south, you know, where I would say, think back on the last day or two of your life. Did you experience that? Did you, inside of yourself or from something that happened in your environment? Does this describe how your mood or your feelings or your perceptions can change all of a sudden? Then I would also delve into, what are you doing as far as your spiritual life? What are you attracting to yourself? Are you doing things that would open yourself up to the kinds of things that could invade your dreams? You know, George Norrie asked me about that years ago, where he said that he was convinced that there are like black government programs which have trained people to go into a dream state and be able to invade the dreams of other people and influence them. And he used an example like, the leader of North Korea. And, you want to influence this guy, so you're going to bombard his dreams with this, psychic energy, or enter into their dreams Inception style and try to influence them, even try to kill them. And that's when I started looking into this deeper. My answer to him was, when you try to do that kind of stuff, the dream state is considered to be kind of a sacred place for the individual to be able to roam and experience themselves safely. Even if you have a nightmare type of experience, it's still trying to teach you something about yourself. The basic experience, the motivation for it, from deep in the subconscious parts of the mind, is basically beneficial. If you try to enter into someone else's dream from the outside, then you are inviting trouble. You are inviting this to boomerang on yourself. Somebody who is an experienced lucid dreamer could see something dark come into their dream, and they go, okay, I'm Yoda, and I got my lightsaber, and I'm going to cut you to ribbons. Because you've learned to be creative in that space and realize that your power is unlimited. Do you really want to walk into someone else's dream where they could trap you there or to attack you in ways that you couldn't defend yourself against? So I wouldn't want to be the person who is tasked by some, deep, dark government, military spy assassination program or whatever, to try to go into someone else's dream because you're entering into their space. This is my octagon, get out. So, but that's not to say that it's not possible. And I didn't think that it was possible in any kind of active sort of way until I started talking to people who were very deep into some of these esoteric and meditative arts. I also ran across a very interesting documentary on Tibetan monks. You know, they go up into the mountains and they, you know, they're living their lives in this very natural way, away from society and TV and all these distractions and stuff. They're mostly celibate. It's a way of saying these guys got nothing better to do but play around inside their own minds and see what they can do. And after years of hours of day of practicing these techniques under the guidance of people who've also been doing that all their lives, who were guided by other monks, generations of them going back, some of them developed these remarkable mental abilities. And in the documentary, the one monk knew what the other monk was teaching. The other monk was sitting under this tree, and he'd been sitting there for days. The camera crew from BBC had their camera on this guy for more than 72 hours, and he didn't move. He didn't take a drink of water. He didn't eat any food. He said he could go on that way indefinitely, and the camera crew was able to record him for more than 3 days. And what they were able to see is that the guy never took a drink of water, never did anything. But his teacher came to the place and was being interviewed by the guys at the BBC, and he was looking at that other monk, and he was going, they were asking the teacher about about what the monk was experiencing, and the teacher was asking him telepathically and getting the messages back. And you could see the incredulity in the interviewer, you know, the guy from the BBC who's going, what, you mean you're talking to him right now? But he's 100 feet away under the tree. He can't hear us. And he's like, you know, and the teacher just kind of gives that knowing smile like, oh, yeah, you know, we don't use voice to talk, son, you know. So the point being here, Joe, is that these guys have learned how to do things that are almost incomprehensible to the Western mind. And there are people out there who do these things and who learn these things. And the dream sharing in those groups is common knowledge. It's a nightly experience where they meet together in a dream space. It's usually, though, a very positive experience, and there's nothing at all that's dark about it. If there is anything dark brought into that space, you could say that it's your own personal baggage. But I think that most of us, though, are not going to experience that. But I will say, though, that we all have these abilities in us. They will be latent in most of us because we haven't developed them. And I have run across cases where the abilities spontaneously manifest, and it usually just blows the mind of the person who's not prepared for it. All of a sudden, they're just, you know, like they're communicating with people in their dreams, or they're going into other places, like into astral spaces. They're spontaneously leaving their body, having experiences like that. And, what do you do when you suddenly find yourself outside of your body? For most people, there's an immediate fear that they're not going to be able to find their way back. That means they think they're going to die. And when you think you're going to die, you have a very powerful, visceral reaction to that. Well, the dreaming mind is a translator of input. Whatever input it's receiving, it translates. So it could be like, you know, you fall asleep and you start snoring and your airway is constricted. That's a physical sensation that the dreaming mind is translating. And it's, it could be like a clogged chimney, or one guy dreamed about it as sucking through a straw and holding the other end of it. It's symbolizing the obstructed airway. Well, imagine how the dreaming mind could symbolize or visualize fear of death. Well, now we've got the Grim Reaper on the scene, and you are reacting to it as if death itself is after you, because you've had some kind of a spontaneous experience while you're dreaming that you weren't prepared for, that you don't understand. And Joe, to answer your question, in those cases, yes, you could possibly have something that's coming in from the outside, something that you've opened yourself up to involuntarily. But most of the time, though, it's an entirely internal experience.
All right, fair enough. That's all we needed to know, really. So I hope that that answers some questions. Well, at least it does for me, anyways. I got a dream I want to ask you about too when we come back. Pretty weird one that I had myself. And we'll get into some Halloween symbolism with J.M. Debord, our guest tonight. Stay with us.
Hola, Fringe listeners. This is Dave Cruz of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Yahoy there. Gigi here from Shift Happens. Do you like to boogie down to topics such as ufology, the occult, and the mysteries behind our reality? Well, I invite you to join us every Friday night at 7 p.m. Pacific, that's 10 p.m. Eastern, as we like to punch that curiosity button and tickle that fancy. We tickle that fancy, but yeah, I don't know if that's the right analogy, but there's certainly a lot of tickling going on over here at Shift Happens.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. J.M. Debord, our guest tonight. In the Halloween spirit, we're exploring the dark side of the dream world with the Dream Master, J.M. Debord himself. jmdebord.com, dreams123.net, dreams123.com. Man, that's the place to explore the deepest parts of yourself that you need to get to. The stuff that you need to work on, or the stuff that you need to fix. And anybody that's doing any type of spiritual work knows that working on your dreams is pretty damn important, or at least trying to understand them. So I got an unrelated dream. I'm going to just take a left turn away from Halloween just for a second, because I got you here, and I don't get this, I don't get this time too often here, JM. So I had a dream that I was I got off a plane and in San Jose, California, for some reason. Of all the places, right? Like, what's a big deal about San Jose? But I got off the plane, and I was like, I shouldn't be here. Like, I think I had this weird feeling that I went somewhere I wasn't supposed to, or maybe like I shouldn't have went there or something, right? And so then I looked at my ticket. I was like, well, I got to go back, right? So I looked at my ticket, and I was like, whoa, okay, I got my ticket. And then I had to buy another ticket for some reason. It's like I went to the wrong place or something, right? But I was in San Jose, California. I knew I had to go back. I looked at my account, and I had like $140 in my bank account or something like that. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I can't buy this plane ticket. And looked at my hotel bill, and my hotel bill was like $670-something, or it was something outrageous. Like, who pays that much money for a hotel room? If you do, then whatever, good for you, but I don't. And I was thinking, damn, this thing like took all of my money, my traveling money. So how the hell am I going to get back? And that was it. I woke up. That was weird.
Yeah. Well, there's some kind of association that you have with San Jose that your dream is using to parallel a destination or place that you found yourself in life, and you could say that it's unexpected, or it's a place where you don't feel comfortable. So let's use an example. San Jose, I associate that with being a high technology town. Google has their headquarters down in there. When you go through the San Jose airport, which I did on a connector flight to Seattle, you can see this is a high tech place. They have references to it all over the airport. So if it was my dream, I would start there and go, okay, well, what are my associations with this place, with San Jose? Okay, now let's plug that into the story. When you arrive on the plane, you've arrived at a destination, a place that you've gone to in your life, in your thinking, your feelings, some kind of way in your inner or outer life. That's a detail that's reflected. So if you think of it as technology and you think of it as you've found yourself in a place where you kind of arrived unexpectedly, and then now let's add the other details, the price of the ticket, what it takes for you to invest in doing something personally, the energy that you put into it, all the various range of your time, your skill, your attention, and of course your energy. These are things that can be symbolized as spending money. So in the dream, you found yourself in this place that it was costly. You don't know how much it costs to get there, but you know that leaving it is going to be even more expensive. But maybe it is reflected in the hotel bill. It implies that bill implies a measure of what it has cost you in a personal sense to be in that space in the personal sense. Now, when you were introducing me, you talked about those 3 websites I have up. Do you know how much of my time and energy it's taken to figure that stuff out?
Yeah.
That's not really me. I mean, I did it, but I can tell you, I can count, the blood, sweat, and tears that went into doing it, to making all of that technology work, the countless amounts of hours, the times when I was pulling my hair out trying to make all that technology work. Even something as simple as integrating in a newsletter plugin, and it doesn't work like it's supposed to, and now I'm sending test emails and it's not working. What am I doing wrong? And well, now it works, but damn, dude, it took a lot of work. So just before we go on the air, you tell me you're doing a lot of work with the station. You're working on the website. I saw on Facebook, dude, you got all those monitors and computers around you. You're like, hey, here's the Fringe FM, the alien mothership right here in the corner of my house. And I see all the technology, So that's where I would go with something like that. I would ask, what are your associations with San Jose? And then think of a place that you've arrived in personally that cost a lot to get there, and now that you're there, you're not even sure if you want to be there. Do you find a parallel in your life?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Don't let my suggestion. I know too much about you, dude. I'm following you on Facebook and stuff, and so I know that stuff about you. If you were just like someone at Reddit who came in and described such a dream, I would begin with the same general sort of advice. What are your associations with San Jose? And what is it, you think of what you have invested yourself in personally as something that costs you. And now think about how a dream would take that and turn it into something that parallels it symbolically. Well, the cost of doing something as far as your time and energy is also shown as like a plane ticket, a bank account, a hotel bill. And so those are that I would explain how all that works and then let you figure it out without me imposing my own ideas on it.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, anyways, we'll get back into the Halloween stuff, but I can tell you for sure that I felt like I wanted to go there. Like it was something I felt like I had to achieve or something, right? But then I was like, what the hell am I doing here? And I can't get back, So it was pretty crazy, right? And now I find myself up here like, upstate New York, and it's about to snow, and I'm used to Arkansas weather. We're still like 70 degrees or something right now, you know. It's freezing outside, man.
Yeah.
And the day, you know, something else up here too, man, is the day is, I don't know anybody up here, by the way. Like
a lot shorter.
Yeah, I don't know anybody up here, number one, so it's awful lonely feeling, number one. And number two, other than Ryan, right? But then the number two, it's like, yeah, the days are shorter. It gets dark early here. That sucks, man. I got to tell you, it does. I hate that.
Yeah, and you know, this is the time of year when people start to have a more withdrawing within themselves, and it leads all the way up to the winter solstice, and it begins right around Samhain, you know, the Halloween. And because it's in part because the days are getting shorter and the nights are getting long, and it gives you more time in the dark. There used to be rituals and things that we had as a culture to embrace the time when it got cold and you were inside more, when it got darker earlier and you had more time in the night. We had these rituals for turning within ourselves and using that time as like a hibernation. We followed the seasons in a psychological sort of way so that we would have a season when everything withdraws and goes dark for a while. And it prepares you for the growth that comes in the spring and in a figurative springtime where your energy is renewed and you're ready again for growth. But you can't grow, 365. You need to have that season of being down. And part of that ritual was also more time in your dreams, paying attention to them. I've noticed that I dream. It seems like I dream a little bit more with that longer time where things are dark out. The circadian rhythm changes. And man, I tell you, sometimes my head hits the pillow and I'm dreaming before it's kicking in right away. And then it's extending all the way into the early morning hours where I wake up and I go, damn, I had just an incredible, I had too much to dream last night, man. There's too much to write down. All this incredible, crazy content that was going on. And I mean, it's part of the process. It's good. And so I would embrace it. You don't have, you escaped all the craziness also in Arkansas. So much of your life was being consumed by the people and the relationships and stuff. And, now you've given yourself, you have quarantined in a deeper sort of way now because you don't have, you're in a place where you don't know anyone. And now it's getting dark and it's getting cold. So, I would suggest spending a little less time in front of that computer monitor. Turn that stuff off and give yourself some time before you go to bed to just relax and breathe all that stuff out of you. Give yourself that hour that you need to transition into sleep. And you might find that your recall of your dreams becomes more intense. You might also find, dude, that you wake up more naturally in the morning. You don't need an alarm clock because you will have the rest that you need. But if you're going to bed with your head full of stuff, your heart full of stuff, and it's, consuming the first part of your night just to process that stuff to allow you to get deeper into sleep and deeper into dreaming, then you're not having as much time for that really deep dreaming that helps you to recuperate. Did you know that even though your brain is just as active as when it's awake and focused, while you are dreaming, your brain is just as awake and is just as active. It lights up. You can see it in brain scans. Here's a guy who's taking a math test. Here's what his brain looks like. Here's a guy who's having an intense dream. Guess what his brain looks like? About the same amount of activity. But it's also deeply recuperative. When you are in that intense dreaming, it's deeply recuperative. And I'll get people who will ask me, especially at Reddit, where they'll say, I've been having these, experiences where I'll go to sleep and I'm dreaming like, so intensely. And then, is there something that's wrong with me? Is there a reason why? And I go, well, what's your sleep habits like? And they'll tell me, well, I've been missing a lot of sleep. And then when I do finally go to sleep, then I can't wake up. Like I'll start having these false awakenings. I'll think that I wake up and I'm walking around and going about my day. And then, and then I go, wait a minute, I'm dreaming. And then boom, I wake up again. And well, guess what? You're still dreaming. Or something will happen in the dream story that's pulling them back in. They'll have this thought like, oh, I think I'm going to wake up now. And then the dream says, no, you're not. And it throws the stuff at them that gets them deeply engaged back into the dream content again. Guess why that's happening? Because the dreaming mind knows they need the recuperation. And it very cleverly sets up a dream within a dream within a dream, or gives them false awakenings so that they'll stay asleep and stay dreaming. Even that extra 10 or 15 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it adds up to, it's so recuperative that it might be the difference between waking up and, being at least refreshed enough to be able to handle your day, or waking up and going, damn, I feel like I haven't slept at all. So even though you're dreaming a lot, and it might feel like it's a very intense activity as you're experiencing it, you might even wake up and think, damn, I just needed some rest. Why are my dreams doing this to me? Well, you're actually getting the recuperative rest that you need while you are in intense stages of dreaming. And we get more of it, of course, while we're having more time in the dark, because our circadian rhythm is matched to the seasons. And as long as you're not artificially hitting your eyes all the time with intense light in the nighttime, if you can give yourself more time in those dark spaces, without the intense light from TVs and electronic screens hitting your eyes all the time, then you're actually giving yourself more recuperative time, not just in the daily sort of sense, but in the seasonal sort of sense. We all need time for that. Just as we went on the air here, I've got a 32-inch monitor next to me. I pulled up a picture of a fall scene, bunch of trees and stuff like that, and it's a picture just with all those beautiful orange and yellow, purple and deep reds and stuff of trees, those colors, so that's what's hitting my eyes as we talk. Because as soon as we get off the air, I'm going to go to bed. And I don't want to be too jacked up by looking at this very bright, screen for these couple of hours when it's dark outside and my circadian rhythm is saying I should be experiencing more dark right now instead of this intense simulated sunlight, which is what we're getting from our electronics.
Yeah. Well, okay. So before, we're getting close to the top of the hour already. So when you see things like witches or, what does a flying witch represent in a dream? Like, I got a freaky dream. I told a long time ago that I was definitely picked up by a witch and just flown around crazily and then dropped off back home. But it was a witch on a broom for sure, man. A witch on a broom. Yeah. I'm not playing.
Well, the old the tale about where the legend of the witch's broom originates is that they're actually describing astral projection, and that that when you're in an astral state, that you can see people who are in a dream state. They'll be walking around distracted by their own thoughts. They're not perceiving you. You are very awake and lucid when you're in the astral state, but you can perceive them and sometimes even interact with their dream content. So what I would wonder, the first thing I would wonder is that if you really felt like that thing was coming from outside of you and it was presented to you as a witch on a broom, I would wonder whether or not what you were actually encountering was a person who was in the astral state, because you don't even have to know that the origin of the myth about the witch and the broom was from, these gifted women who were able to, and men who were able to go into the astral state. This knowledge is part of the collective unconscious, and you can readily access it in your dream state. So if you could have that information pulled into the dream, and then that becomes how the dream gets colored, or the way that the information is presented to you. Which on room, person in astral state who is actually interacting with you in your dream state, or at least has come into your area. You're in a dream state and they're in the astral and they're traveling around. They could just be someone who's, in the neighborhood. They're not targeting you specifically,
Yeah.
But then there's sometimes I know people who go into the astral and they'll see people in dream states and they'll dick around with it a little bit.
Right.
So that's how I would begin. But there's also other parts. There's also symbolism of it. Oftentimes the witch is, as a side of yourself, is the dark. In a male's dream, the witch is commonly interpreted as the dark side of the anima archetype, also called anima. It's a Latin word that means soul. And every man has a feminine subpersonality, and every woman has a male subpersonality that's known as animus or animus, depends on how you want to pronounce it. And this is an insight from Dr. Carl Jung, who said that we all have this other side of us that is deep down in our psyche. It's the flip side of you as a conscious being. There's another side of you that is you as an unconscious being. And as everything works in opposites, the psyche also works in opposites. So you have, for your gendered conscious personality, you have an unconscious personality that is the opposite gender. You have a lifelong relationship with it too. And for most people, it is so deeply unconscious, they're hardly even aware of it, but they dream about it. And if they have a bad relationship with that other side of themselves, with the unconscious mind, for a man at least, he could dream about it as a witch. It's this powerful, malevolent, nagging thing, because that's his relationship within his own interior life. So that would be another route that I would explore with a dream that features a witch. Is if it's a man, are you dreaming about your anima? If it's a woman, are you seeing some side of your personality reflected in that character, some side of your conscious personality? And most of the time, dreams are showing you things that you don't already know about yourself. This is one of the reasons why the things that are in our dreams can seem so disconnected from what we know of being our realities and what we know of ourselves. The dreams are showing it to us and helping us to integrate it, helping us to understand it. It's it's content coming up from the unconscious that's wanting to become conscious. That's why you're seeing it in a dream. And by nature, it is something that you don't already know about yourself. So, Joe, if you have something that comes to you and you don't already know about, it's unconscious, and it's something that you have an antagonistic relationship towards internally. Well, imagine how that could be visualized. Imagine how a dream could create a scenario where you interact with it. Well, yeah, I could very easily see how a dream could take that part of you and show it to you as a witch. Or, hey, let's get into some darker stuff than that. How about when you dream about demons and devils, Satan, Lucifer? I've helped with some dreams that were, straight out of The Exorcist. And in the end, what we ended up finding at the heart of those dreams was some kind of antagonistic relationship that the dreamer has with himself. So, yeah, man, witch. Kind of a cool, Look it up in my dream interpretation. Yeah, I wrote the dream interpretation dictionary, Symbol, Signs, and Meanings. It's sold 20-something thousand copies at this point. It was a bestseller.
Yeah.
And it's got a lot of these entries in it, and which is one of them. I go into real detail on this, where I give all of these different possibilities for symbolism and teach, actually, in the entries for the dream dictionary, I actually teach you the process of decoding symbolism rather than just giving you pat answers like a standard dream dictionary does. So, yeah, man, check it out.
Fantastic. I definitely will. We'll be right back. The phone lines, we're going to open them up. If you got a question for JM, better call while you got it. If you had a dream or something you want to talk to me about, now's the time. 1-800-588-0335. When we come back, we'll open the phone lines up. Stay with us.
Are you tired of mainstream news? Are you looking for an alternative? This is Jess Rogie with the Rogie Report News, where I cover everything from space news to parapolitics, from cryptids to ghosts, to ancient discoveries and new technology, all here on the Rogie Report on the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting.
What happens when you bring the Fringe FM together with the world's leading paranormal experts and influencers? What if no topic was off the table, including paranormal events, conspiracy theory, witchcraft, psychic abilities, astrology, ufology, and more? And what would happen if you broadcast this event in crystal clear video live around the world, allowing viewers to interact with their favorite presenters? You would have created the monster that is the Fringe Fest 2020. 2 nights only, Friday, October 30th and Saturday, October 31st. Go to thefringefest.com for more info. Get your tickets today at thefringefest.com. That is thefringefest.com. Trick or truth, it's up to you.
This portion of the show is being brought to you by Honest Ed's Used Cars, where every car we sell is backed by an ironclad guarantee that is so complete and comprehensive that we really don't see any need to put it in writing. And remember Honest Ed's motto: if any used car dealer anywhere in the country says he can sell you the same car cheaper than we will, then he's even a bigger liar than I am.
Want more of The Fringe? Check out thefringe.fm for more information on your favorite shows. Also, don't forget to check out the Fringe mobile app or the other ways you can tune in through the Paranormal Radio app and TalkStream Live. Where the normal and paranormal collide, it's the Fringe FM.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to The Fringe FM.
This is Jason Lindgren from Crow 777 Radio, and you can hear us 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday night here on The Fringe FM.
Stardate October 27th. An exploded star in Cassiopeia is a huge chemical factory. It's surrounded by filaments of oxygen, iron, sulfur, and other elements. They were forged inside the star's core, or in the blast that ripped it apart. Someday, they may be incorporated into new stars, planets, or even living organisms. In fact, the oxygen, iron, and many other elements in our own bodies were created in similar explosions. Cassiopeia A began life as a heavy star, roughly 15 times the mass of the Sun. The core of such a star is extremely hot. At such high temperatures, it combines lighter atoms to make heavier ones, all the way up to iron. At the end, the star can't continue the process. The core collapses to form a neutron star. The star's outer layers blast into space. The explosion is so hot that it creates many more new elements. Astronomers have measured the amounts of different elements in the debris around Cass A. The debris forms a bubble that's 10 light years wide. It contains enough oxygen to make a star 3 times as massive as the Sun. There's enough iron to make 70,000 Earth-mass planets. and enough silicon to make 20,000 Earths. All of that material is moving outward at millions of miles per hour, perhaps to form part of a future star system. Cass A is in Cassiopeia, the Queen, which is in the northeast as night falls and wheels high across the north during the night. Its stars form a big letter M or W. For the McDonald Observatory, I'm Billy Henry.
Hi folks, these uncertain times can cause uncertain gut slowdown. Worry and fear can wreak havoc on our digestion, making it hard to feel optimum. Bloating, less energy, and occasional constipation can slow you down in your daily activity. Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea can help get things moving so you can get that boost of energy you need. Life Change Tea helps protect and defend your health from intruders. It's a weird time right now with all the uncertainty, so gear up and defend your health. Where do you go to purchase? Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. The specials are on the front page, and we have numerous supplements to help combat intruders. It's time to take charge of our health and to feel better in life. It's time to live. Again, getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. It is so worth it. getthetea.com.
So call Joe, pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada. You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
All right, so if you want to talk to our guest, that call-in number is, as the man said, 1-800-588-0335. It's our Halloween special with Mr. J.M. Debord. You can go to his website at dreams123.com, dreams123.net, or jmdebord.com. And, I want to kind of get into these, when we see things in our dreams, J.M., like demonic things or, scary figures, even like, the movie The Ring, the ugly girl with the long hair, like things that are super freaky. Like something, so if you see something in your dream, like a face that you've never seen before, but it's horrifying, and you're like, well, where did my mind reference that? I've never seen that before, but it was like the scariest thing I've ever seen. Like, I wonder how that happens sometimes.
Yeah, and you mentioned The Ring, and that brought up a lot of reports at Reddit Dreams. And by the way, for your audience, dreams.reddit.com. And if they don't know what Reddit is, then, you're
not living on this planet.
REDDIT. Yeah. Although, plenty of people don't know about it. Very large social media site. I run the Dreams Forum, and I'm the lead moderator there. And I've been doing it for years. And I tell you, man, that girl from The Ring really rang a bell with people, because you would see her, people would report seeing her or a character like her in their dreams, even if they hadn't seen the movies, just from those, from the movie trailers and stuff like that, the commercials for it. I remember the jump scare tactics when the face is revealed, and it's like, and so many people who had that enter into their dreams. I mean, more than other horror movie, characters. Every once in a great while, you'll get like a Freddy Krueger type of character, or Michael Myers from Halloween movies. But The Ring was one that one struck, that struck a chord. People were dreaming about it more so than other, scary images. And, our dreaming mind, when it wants to it can use it to create an atmosphere, to reflect a feeling within yourself. It can use it as a general, like, it's something that's scary. So the dreaming mind starts with that and says, oh, that image scares you. Well, let me let me use this to represent or symbolize something else that scares you. I have a friend of mine who has this recurring black shadow that chases him in his dreams. It pops up every couple of years. And what we have found is that the circumstances change, but the character or the image is the same. It went from, being, originally it was fear of failing his family as a financial provider. Why was he having the dreams at that time? Because he was trying to make a job as a contractor work, and he had gone out of the work that he was doing for a big corporation where he was making, a steady salary. And then he was trying to make it on his own, and he was looking at it and going, man, I don't know how I'm going to make ends meet. I got kids going to college in a few years, all this stuff. So he ended up going back into the corporate world where he had a steady salary and all that kind of stuff. Well, then it comes along a few years later, and now it's related to things that are more about his family, about, being a little older and knowing that the time is going to come when his relevance is kind of his period of time where he's the most relevant in society is running out. He knows what happened to his own father when he got to be a certain age, and, time's up. Not to say necessarily mortality or death, but just, he's got a lot of things that he still wants to do with the time that he has remaining. And so it was the same, it was a different fear, but it was still fear. And it was shown to him as the same black shadow in a dream. It's funny is that you can take from different cultures the things that are prevalent in their cultures. Like in our culture, something that is something that people fear that is based on fear of the unknown. And in our culture, because we're so exposed to, UFO and alien lore, you'll see that more often in people's dreams. But go over to, say, Japan and see what appears in their dreams to symbolize the same sort of idea of fear of the unknown. And it might be more of like a beast that rises out of the sea. Yeah, I can't think of a specific, Japanese mythology about that, but I know that because they're an island nation, that they have a lot of myths that revolve around things that rise up out of the ocean. The ocean is the unknown. The fear of it is this big creature. So in Western and American culture, it shows up as UFOs and aliens or Bigfoot. In Japanese culture, it could show up as, I don't want to say Godzilla, but something like that. The beast that comes out of the sea, the Kraken, or, of course, that's not a Japanese myth. But so if it depends, you can take the same idea, go to different cultures, and see how the prevalence of certain imagery in their cultures is reflected back in their dreams. You'll see that also with, cultures like ours that are saturated in media and movies and stuff. You'll see this content you'll see it reflected in people's dreams, and it's always a way of showing you an idea, because a dream symbol, what is the image, the thing that you see, the visual representation in the dream, the symbol is wrapped around an idea. It's like a costume that comes over the idea. The idea is fear of the unknown. Okay, in my friend's dream, it's, it manifests one way as a black shadow. It was just say fear. Fear in his dream is the black shadow. Fear in another person's dream is the alien. Fear in somebody who is like Pentecostal Christian. I'll just use that as an example, not to knock on the Pentecostals. There are a lot of these very fundamentalist sorts of religions that they preach, the fire and the brimstone, and that it's spiritual warfare, that it's you constantly have to be on the lookout for these spiritual forces that will try to make their way in and corrupt you. So in their dreams, it's demons and devils. But usually it's just reflecting something subjectively in the person. I'll give you an example of one, and I'll try to make it PG, because this was one of these dreams, man. A guy dreams, he wakes up in his bed, and Satan, like with horns and red skin and forked tongue and all that, is behind him, and he is, that's the delicate word I can use here, going at it anally. This is Satan's behind him and is doing him anally. And then Satan reaches around and grabs crap and stuffs it in his mouth. So this is the guy's dream, okay?
That's crazy, man.
Now guess what it means? Guess what we traced it back to? He was in a flame war of sorts. He was having with a guy at school they were really going at it in the nastiest sorts of way. Now, if you take crap and stuff it in your mouth, if you think of it as a symbol, Joe, what could it, if you're talking crap, how does a dream show it visually? It shows it as crap, And if you are having the nastiest sort of fight with someone and you are taking it up the rear in the figurative sense, how does a dream visualize it? That's what it came down to in his dream. So I've seen so many, countless examples of this where these dreams initially appear that it's some of the darkest stuff that you would ever want to dream up in the figurative sense or in the literal sense, like, and you think, oh my God, it's, it's Satan, it's Lucifer, it's demons and devils coming at you. I had a friend of mine who dreamed about trying to get out of he was in hell, and he found a way of getting up into the walls of hell, like to escape. And hell was like a prison camp. And there's all these people running around, and I mean, it's a really dark scene with something out of Dante, just, people burning and, the being in, wrapped in barbed wire and, terrible scenes. And he goes up into this passageway that he finds so that he can slip out onto the other side of the walls. Well, we traced the dream in trying to find what's the personal parallel here. What is it dramatizing? Knowing that dreams exaggerate. A key insight about dreams. They exaggerate, they dramatize. So when I look at it and I explain to him, I'm like, this is, you're trapped within something in the dream. And it's a bad place to be. You don't want to be there anymore, so you're trying to escape it. You're trying to find your way out of these walls to get away. And in the end of the dream, he finds himself, he appears on the outside of the walls, but he's really high up, and his only choice is to either go back or to jump, like out into the unknown, like from way high up in the air. And he makes the choice to jump. And I'm like, so think about, dude, what are you trying to get away from that you would be that desperate to get away from it in a dramatized sort of way? But this is expressing your feelings. Well, he came from a very restrictive culture, Southeast Asian culture, and in his family and it just his culture in general was very, very restrictive. But he comes over here to the U.S. and he has a whole different way of experiencing things. And even though it's years later, he still feels these walls around him. Inside the walls, he's a prisoner, but there's a sense of safety there in a sense because he's staying within the restrictions of his culture. As long as he's doing that, then he's safe. But he decides that he wants to leave that internal space. He was a prisoner to it, and the walls were his beliefs. The walls were his training as someone who grew up in a very restrictive culture. And so it's all symbolized there. And even though the dream shows it as hell and there were like demons on the walls and patrolling the perimeter and all this kind of stuff, it's actually traceable back to what he was experiencing inside of himself. Pretty wild, isn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, that is. Well, yeah, see, that's what everything really goes back to, isn't it? It doesn't really matter what you're dreaming about. Most of the time, it's what's going on inside you, period. I mean, like,
yes,
90% of the time. I'm not saying people don't get in your dreams, though. There's all kinds of YouTube videos on that stuff now, man, where they're talking about how people can enter your dreams, and there's books on it. And it gets a little scary, to think about.
Yeah, most of it is, I mean, I will say that it's, okay, while I will say that a lot of it is myth, I'll also say this. And sharing dreams is a nightly process that all of us experience. And I used to not believe this. I'd run across these teachings as, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've gone into many sources. And my training comes conventionally of understanding dream psychology, neuroscience, and then also the narrative structure of dreams, symbolism, things like that. Understanding dreams is an experience that is an internal experience. Most dreams are that way. Well, then I was running across some of these other teachings. Edgar Cayce, for example, said that every night the spirit of the person leaves the body and goes out to experience what it's like outside of the body. It's turned into dream imagery that it's not like, watching, a Monroe Institute video where they're visualizing what it's like to astral project, you're out there in the stars and whatever. Like instead it's showing you just kind of walking along down the street. You don't recognize that you're in an environment that's outside of your body. There's nothing that's obvious like that. Well, there's another teacher that I ran across with this. His name is Robert Moss, and he's written a lot of books. He gives all these workshops and trainings and stuff. He's a big name in the field of teaching about dream work, and he's on the shamanic side of it. And he talks about it. I'm on his Facebook page. He talks about it nightly, that he experiences these things where he is he calls them social dreams. But because he's such an experienced dreamer, he can go about it in a way where he's engaging in the dream, knowing that he's in a shared environment, dream space with other people who are dreaming. But he is conscious of the fact that that's what he's experiencing. So sometimes I have to, even though I have all kinds of personal experience with it, but not in the way that he does, where I'm able to be in that space and be conscious of the fact that, yeah, hey, I'm dreaming. And not only am I dreaming, I'm in a shared dream environment. So I'm experiencing those things, but I don't know that that's what I'm experiencing it as if it's a conventional dream. But when someone like Edgar Cayce and then someone like Robert Moss, and then many, many other people say that this happens, then I got to defer to their expertise and say, yeah, actually, it does happen. And in fact, it happens to all of us nightly. You're a big fan of Bob Monroe. Bob Monroe even identified the stage of sleep when it happens. Because, Bob was he was big into the out-of-body experience. And, he created HemiSync, and he wrote the book Journeys Out of Body, and then 2 other books about about astral travel. And he was also he was kind of an engineer. He was a businessman, but he had this sort of engineer's approach to things. He wanted to know how things work. And so when he was like, well, I'm going into this astral state nightly, and I know that it's also happening during my dreams spontaneously. I've learned because I did it consciously, astral travel. Well, I've learned now to recognize when it happens spontaneously when I'm dreaming. Well, why don't we hook me up to all the equipment and see what stage of sleep I'm in? because each stage of sleep is marked by different forms, different types of brain waves. And so what he found, Joe, is that it happens during what's known as the delta stage of sleep. Delta stage has a brainwave rhythm between 4 and 8 hertz, very slow brainwave patterns. And delta sleep is, I call it dead sleep, because it's usually the most unconscious time of sleep. Now, there has been dream activity that has been recorded in people who were sleeping in delta stage. We've been able to measure and see that they will have dream activity, but they usually don't remember it at all. What Bob says is that dream activity, that's actually you leaving your body, and it happens every 90 minutes while you're asleep, which is the average length of a sleep cycle. Part of every sleep cycle, if you get deep enough into sleep, part of every sleep cycle, you will be in delta stage sleep, which means that you leave your body every night. Most people don't know that, and I didn't know it until recently. It was kind of mind-blowing for me. But I heard Bob talk about it himself. You know, I was in an interview. It was from a long time ago. I ran across it on YouTube, and he was talking about it, talking about the experiments that they did with it. You know, Bob was big into this. He would try different types of experiments, like creating lucid. He had 2 people. One of them was Tom Campbell, who's a physicist, who had been practicing meditation regularly for years. And then he ran across Bob in the early 1970s. And Bob said, "Hey, you know, would you like to come out and start doing? I'm doing these experiments." And so, you know, they started working together. And Bob had another guy who was also deep into lucid dreaming. And he said to Tom and to the other guy, he said, "Now, what I want you to do, I'm going to have you in these separate rooms. And before you guys separate, we're going to make this intention that you guys are going to go into a lucid state and a lucid dreaming state, and you're going to meet and you're going to exchange information that you can verify when you wake up. But you're not going to have, you know, you're not even going to be doing this in the same room. I've got one of you in one room. I've got speaker and microphone hooked up. I'm in a control room. The other guy's in another room." So they go off and they do their thing. They're very practiced at getting into deep states of relaxation and meditation and then falling into a dream state, but doing it lucidly. They do it. They meet up in the dream state. They exchange information, nothing prearranged. They talk to Bob as they're doing this so that they can report it to him, and then Bob compares the notes. They were in the same place. They were in a dream state, and they were in the same place. They see each other. They exchange information. They're able to verify the information after they wake up. Now, Bob did this, but there have been a lot of other groups that have done this also. There's a book called Mutual Dreaming. This is something that people who are in dream groups, something that they'll do out of curiosity. Hey, let's go to sleep tonight. You know, you're in California, I'm in New York. Well, you know, let's make an intention to meet up in a dream. I did it with a friend of mine.
Did it work?
But I didn't remember. Yeah, it did. I didn't remember the dreams. My friend did it, though. He's a lot more experienced than I am at this stuff. And we made an intention that we were going to meet, and he named a place. I've never been there, but I was like, okay. So before I went to bed, I had this intention in my mind. I want to meet up with my friend. And then there's other stuff that came up that was like, whoa, dude, you're about to, enter into some really wild stuff here. You're kind of leveling up if you're able to do this. And I thought, okay, if I do this, I've got to do this more out of just intellectual curiosity. I need to do this because it's something I really want to do. I got to do it because it comes from my heart, because my heart is leading me to go and have this experience. And then there was another thing that I did was I said, this is going to take some willpower for me to program this into my mind, and I associate that with the third chakra, the solar plexus chakra, and the color associated it with it is yellow. So as I'm going to sleep, I'm thinking I'm painting everything in shades of yellow, and I'm thinking to myself, this needs to come from the heart. So my friend contacts me and says, yeah, man, he's like, it didn't look exactly like you, but I knew it was you in the dream. And I was like, oh, dude, I didn't see you. I hardly remembered any dreams, but I don't remember you being in them. And he's like, yeah, man, you were going on and on about how, you really want to do this, but it has to come from your heart. And then he's like, dude, everything was yellow. He's like, the sky was yellow. The walls were yellow. He's like, you were painting with your mind. You were painting everything yellow. He's like, I thought it was hilarious. And so, he was able to tell me the things that I was thinking of before I went to sleep. And I carried it into my dream state with me unconsciously, and he picked up on it.
That's insane.
I mean, what are the odds, right? Yeah, I mean, you could say it was, some remarkable coincidence, right? Nah. I'm beyond those things now. I've seen it happen too many times. Plus, yellow, and I'm very, very specifically about talking about things coming from the heart. I hadn't prepared my friend for that. That wasn't something that I'd shared with him where it could possibly enter into his dream randomly because he associates it with me. It was because he picked up on it. And I've been learning that there are ways of doing this. I've got a student now, and I have this dreamschool.net, and I offer a guided course there where I give people courses that are video recorded, and then I work with them on their dreams, like tutoring 1-to-1. And I had this girl who I've been teaching her some of these things, and she had this dream where this character appeared, and she decided spontaneously to name the character. And she gave him a Western name. She's Japanese. And she gave him a Western name. And then she decided that she was going to give herself a name that was a different name than her own, but it was like her in the dream state. Well, she turned around and looked up the name out of curiosity that she spontaneously named to this character. And in like ancient Gaelic, it had this meaning to it that was exactly what she associated with the character, like fire and passion. And the character was actually like shown. There were times that fire came into the dream, but it was fire. It meant fire and passion. And then, and that fit exactly what happened, her associations with the character. But she named it before any of this came into her mind while dreaming spontaneously. So she was accessing this information in the collective unconscious that she did not consciously know at the time, the associations with that name, and then associating it with that character and giving that character that name. I tell you, dude, you get into this stuff and you just continue to be amazed by what the dreaming mind can do. I had a guy who dreamed about going to the Hell Museum. He had this very detailed dream. He saw this place. It's called the Hell Museum. He just knew that he wasn't in the place. He's like, I knew I was in a different place, but I didn't know exactly where I was in the world. But I knew I was in this place called the Hell Museum. And it had all these wild displays. Okay, everybody, run to the internet, look up Hell Museum in Singapore. There is actually a place called the Hell Museum.
Oh, wow.
He had never heard of it. He had never been to Singapore before. It wasn't a one-off thing either. And so many times that people have dreamed about places they've never been, concepts they've never been exposed to, teachings, people who figured out things, how to speak other languages that they've never been exposed to.
Is it
I have a friend of mine who figures out math
museum?
problems.
Is it a Buddhist museum?
Well, some of the imagery had, because in Buddhism, they do have some of these, a kind of a rendition of these demonic sorts of characters. And I do remember seeing it when I looked it up. because of course he's talking about the Hell Museum, and he looked it up, and he's like, it's a real place. So what was the first thing I do? I go and I look it up, and I remember seeing the pictures, and some of it did look, it had that sort of Buddhist rendition of what these hellish creatures and characters would look like, demons and devils and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There was a guy, his name is Srinivasa Ramanujan. He's one of the most famous mathematicians in all of history. He died a century ago in 1920. He was a man who grew up in India, who was uneducated for the most part, poor. He got his hands on some math textbooks and started spontaneously working through them himself. And he figured out things. He basically became a self-trained mathematician who would make most PhD mathematicians look like elementary school kids. He figured out things that the most brilliant minds in mathematics hadn't even conceived of yet. And he said that it all came to him in his dreams. He said that he would be looking at a screen and blood would wash over the screen. A more positive association with blood, by the way, not like bleeding to death, but he would just see blood wash across the screen, and then he would see a hand write the various formulae and theorems, equations, things like that. And then he would wake up from the dreams and he would write it all down. And he said that he felt that it was this, I can't remember the name of the goddess, but it's a Hindu goddess. And he said that it was her that came to him in his dreams and gave him these mathematical formulae. Well, guess what people have done with that since then? Well, they figured out the mathematics of black holes. They figured out string theory, the underlying quantum fabric of the universe, the prevailing theory on how all that works. One of them is called string theory. His mathematics was what was the basis for that, and he dreamed it all up. So I'm just continually amazed by the things that we can figure out and experience in our dreams, and the information and knowledge that can come to us that's outside of our scope of learning and experience in life. You get these ideas in your dreams, they come to you, and you go, wow, it seemed to have come out of nowhere. Well, it's because you're connecting into a collective mind when you're in the dream state. One of the things that Carl Jung said that I just ran across recently and finally began to grasp, he said that at the bottom of the psyche, the bottom of the mind, you find the world. He said that mind is at one end of a continuum that extends all the way into matter, into the world. But it is a continuum, and it is all accessible through your mind. And he said that was why there is part of the mind, the psyche, that is objective, meaning that it is connected to the objective reality of the world, the truth of the reality of the world, that the psyche at the bottom that it's connected to it. And that if you keep traveling further and further and further into the depths of the psyche, the bottom that you reach, or the other side of the spectrum that you reach, is material reality. And now you're there as yes. I know. That one blew. I hadn't, I've read a lot of Jung, and he's 75% of what I know about dreams have come from him and his contemporaries. But I had never run across this before. But I'm reading a book right now about it's Carl Jung and remote viewing, and it's by a guy named Dave Shraver. I got this book randomly. It's signed by the author. And I won't say randomly. I ran across it, and I was like, wait, Jung wrote something about remote viewing? No, he didn't write about remote viewing specifically. The author Shraver is connecting the dots. But this was a quote that was in his book, and he fleshes out the idea and explains how it works. And I'm like, wow, you know, he brings in the quotes from Jung and cites his evidence for it, and then goes off and connects it with other guys like the philosopher Immanuel Kant. And it goes all the way back to like Greek philosophers and stuff, that they had this idea that mind and matter were just two ends of a continuum, and that you can access the world of matter through the mind. You know, our friend Ian Wilson had a video up for a while on YouTube. He took it down. Ian, you know Ian, he's been lucid dreaming for
he's
more than 30 years.
One of my favorite people on the planet, but he's a crazy son-buck too. You know what I mean? You get on YouTube, he's got these goggles on. He's like, all right, let's start mapping out these dream worlds, you know. Let's do this thing. And he's not afraid of it.
Because he's on such another level, and he's and that's because he's teaching people how to program their dreams to have experiences, and he's in the steampunk, so he dresses up the fit.
Exactly,
part, right?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm into that too. So
he had these videos on YouTube for a while where he was able to have his camera on and recording while he was dropping into a lucid state, but maintaining awareness of the physical world enough to know that he was still in his physical environment. And then he would use his fingers to reach out and touch things around him. And he's doing it in a lucid state. And you could actually see the physical environment responding to what he was doing in his lucid state. He's not physically reaching out and touching it with his physical fingers, but he's doing it in his mind with his fingers, and you could actually see the responses in his physical environment. I kid you not, man. Yeah, I kid you not. I mean, it looked a little funky at first when you're going, because the resolution on the camera, and he had to do something with the contrast to make it visible. He's like, here, you can see it. And he was running his fingers across the shag carpet, and you could actually see the response. You could see the bristles of the carpet like bending over and coming back up again, and doing it in a line. And he said that he was seeing that in his mind as he was running his fingers across the carpet, but you couldn't see it with the normal, when he was recording it, he had to turn the contrast up high, and then you could see it. But, you know, Ian's been doing this, like I said, you know, and you know him, he's been doing this for more than 30 years, and he's gone off onto a whole different level than, you know, most people are going to ever know. But this is a point of saying that from one end you have mind, and the other end you have matter, and it's a continuum. What did Jung say? At the bottom of the psyche, you find the world. Ian dropped all the way down through and found that place where it connects directly with the physical world. And he figured out how to manipulate the physical world with his mind while in a dream state. I mean, you know.
You know what, though?
Talk about next level, man.
Here's the thing with the Ian stuff, though. It's like, I had people email me about that, and they're like, dreaming for gamers, what the hell is that? Like, why are you promoting that? And I'm like, because it's cool, and I believe in this guy. If people would even listen to the radio shows that he comes on, he'll go on like 4 hours. I mean, this is something that I know you can't do, right? Because I'm lucky to have you on this long, right? I'm hoping to keep you till the end. We only got like 15 minutes here, but I was thinking,
I'm here, man.
This guy called me one night, and we were talking, and I heard it was like one of the second shows we did. I heard like a coyote, and I was like, what the hell? I was like, what was that? And he's like, oh man, I'm out in the middle of the woods just sitting on a stump here looking at a coyote. I'm like, you're out in the middle of the woods? Yeah. Like, usually I feel like people are going to call me from inside their house or something, right? This cat had to drive out in the middle of the woods because he wanted to be in the quiet. He wanted it quiet when he was going to talk about dreams. And he's deep in the woods, like by himself at 2:00 in the morning in the Canadian woods. Freezing too, right? And like talking on the phone to me for hours about dreams, man. That's the kind of cat he
is. Yeah. And he's giving away all of this. He's got his courses he gives a free 7-day thing, Dreamers Challenge, and then he's got all these other courses, and he's put so much time and effort into it, and he's almost given the stuff away. It's so damn inexpensive. And he's actually teaching you the secrets of things that he's putting it in a Western scientific sort of terminology. He's real deep into the neuroscience of dreaming. But these are the same things that they were teaching the Tibetan lamas and stuff. They've known how to do this, where you can pull content into your dreams and have the dream reflect that content. So basically, you're programming your dreams so that you can have experiences. You just have to learn how to overcome, for what most people is a pretty big hurdle, which is how to keep your mind awake as your body falls asleep. Joe, has anybody else talked to you about keeping your mind awake as your body falls asleep?
Oh, yeah. Right.
Bob Monroe, right? Bob talked about this. And what Ian's doing is a variation of this. So we already know, because Bob's taught it, that this is something that's, that anybody can do, he's done it for different purposes. He did it for astral purposes, astral travel. Well, what Ian says is that you're pulling those, you're like, I remember the one dream he had, it was the cantina scene from Star Wars. And he's picturing this very strongly as his body is falling asleep and the dream state starts. And he's just holding on to this visualization that he has of being in the cantina at Star Wars. And he said that there came a point where there was this shift, and it all started operating spontaneously as if he was in the movie. He no longer had to hold the imagery in mind of the cantina. It once the dream started up, then it started happening spontaneously, and then he could focus on being a character in the story. And he had all this stuff play out. There was a Sith Lord that appeared, and he had this battle in the middle of the cantina. He's like kissing the waitress and saying, "Hey, baby, I'll see you later. So let me go take care of this bad guy real quick." He's pulling a Han Solo, kind of mishmashing these different Jedi characters together. And then he pulls out his freaking lightsaber and has a lightsaber battle with this dream character who's able to act autonomously and independently and from its own set of skills and with its own agenda. He went in and he had a freaking Jedi lightsaber battle and experienced it in full 3D, dream reality. So, yeah, I can see why people would say, they look at this and think, oh man, this guy's off the deep end or whatever. Well, I guess you'd have to be there and experience it. And
I don't think he's off the deep end. This is all
being built.
I'm
only saying that in the sense of how he's perceived.
No. I know what you're saying, because you're a good dude too. But I will tell you something about people that do dream exploration and conscious exploration on levels that deep. And this is something that I've picked up, and maybe you can validate this for me or invalidate it, because I don't want to pretend that I'm right about this stuff either. But we're talking about people that have such, at least in my case, what I've met with people like this, they have such an emotional and loving nature. All right. Yeah. And I'm not saying they're escaping the world, but they seriously cannot, and I relate to them in a lot of ways. There's a lot of people that say that they're from other planets and all this other stuff, but these kind of people like Ian probably have some of the biggest loving hearts on the planet and cannot fathom how people treat others. That he's like he's not a child, but he has the heart of like 3 children put together,
Yeah. And what do the scriptures say? To enter the kingdom of God, you must do it as like a child. And it means to have that same sort of purity of heart and intention. People like Ian are that way. you know, he has also related his past life experience that he had of fighting in combat, and the last thing he experiences is the bullet going through his skull.
Yeah.
And he said his spirit left his body, and he wanted to leave the earth. And he's like, I want nothing to do with these people anymore. They're crazy. They kill each other in mass. You know, I want nothing to do with it. And he was convinced that he could come back and have a much better experience. He encountered a spirit guide, which he now knows as a higher manifestation of himself, of his own spirit, that came to him and said, reincarnate, and this time you get to come back as this guy named Ian Wilson, and you're going to be able to do things and share the things that you know in a way that it'll be a much more positive experience of life. Trust me on this one, just go back.
I believe that.
You know, and he did. So yeah, you know, there's, I mean, like what I said when, you know, I knew that I had to experience this from the heart. When you go into, I wanted to go into this space. I've heard people talk about it. I'm a dream interpreter. I work with dreams. You know, this is my thing. I write books about it. I have a dream school. And I wanted to know, well, what are some of these deeper experiences that people have? Yeah, I could meet up with a friend in a dream. We can share a dream space. Well, wouldn't that be cool? Yeah, I could do it consciously and lucidly. Yeah, wouldn't that be cool? Well, what's the motivation for this? Well, yeah,
connection.
It has to come from the heart.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
like
and
deep
from
connection
the heart.
with somebody
From
for
the
sure.
heart.
Yeah.
Did you know that the heart has an electromagnetic field that can be detected with up to 7 feet away?
Yes, I did. Actually, I do.
Yeah, and you know, your brain barely registers outside of your skull, and we consider the brain to be the seat of consciousness. It's the heart that actually has the energy, and I think that the heart is actually the seat of consciousness.
It's the seat of
now,
the subconscious for sure. Well, I believe, like where it's deep down, like in all of your deepest fears and loves and everything is right there. You know.
Yes, it is, man. Yes, it is. And where do you feel fear? When you feel fear, where do you feel it? You feel
right
it
there
in your chest.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely, brother.
But what were you saying though? I interrupted. You said when you say the heart, what are you getting at with that?
This is the energy for going into these places that you want to go to. If you want to have an out of body experience, if you want to lucid dream, if you want to share dreams, then or do like what Ian's doing, where you're programming a dream. If you want to do these things, the motivation for it will come from your heart. I went about this as a mental exercise. Well, my brain has a fraction of the power and energy of my heart. So when you said, like, you know, you've seen this in people that, you know, people like Ian, you're like, God, he has such an incredible heart. You know, he cares about people. Well, that's heart energy. And so as you're saying that, and I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, man, because the heart is really what is the power plant for having, you know, for providing the power, the energy to be able to do these kinds of things. When you are in a higher level dream state, you are creating an energetic space. It's an extra energetic dream. If you really want to just simplify what this is, outside of conventional dreaming, when you have these other experiences through dreaming, it's an extra energetic dream because you are pouring your heart energy into it. So if you want to have these experiences, isn't there a very simple sort of idea for you here? Work on opening your heart. I had an insight that came to me. I used to do these, or I still do these. It's just exercises in moving energy and feeling it through your body. You feel it pulling up through your feet and up through your system to the crown of your head, and then pouring down the crown of the head down to the feet. Bob Monroe calls it creating the energy bubble, right? And as you get the bubble circulating, you get the energy circulating. What does he say? You do the breathing exercises. You're pulling all the energy up into the head while you're doing the chanting the Om. And then the energy, he says, store it in your head and then release it like a fountain of water flowing down your body. You feel it come down to your feet. It re-enters through the soles of your feet. In other words, the first chakra. It comes back up through the energy system to the crown of the head, the seventh chakra. Well, I followed that, and there's a lot of visualizations where you would see the golden light coming down to the top of the head and all this kind of stuff. Well, I got an insight one day. I went, wait a minute, what if I start this at the heart? Because the heart is really the energy center, the power plant for the entire chakra system. So what I'll do is start it at the heart and then have it spread out both directions simultaneously. It's going down towards the root chakra. It's going up towards the crown chakra, down towards my feet, up towards the top of my head. And that was like a whole new way of experiencing, feeling that energy move. And it was a different experience. The heart chakra is considered to be the balance between body, the first three chakras, and spirit, the other three chakras, fifth, sixth, and seventh chakra, the throat, third eye, and crown of the head chakra. That's the chakras of spirit. You have the root, sacral, and solar plexus chakras are the first three. They're associated with the body. Right in between them, the regulator between them, the power plant, really for all of it, is the heart chakra. So I started focusing on that more than trying to do the visualization starting at feet or crown. I would start the visualization at the heart. And it was a different way of working with the energy. I'm still doing it, but I'm learning that that's where all of this begins, that all of these other experiences that I might want to have, the things that I'd like to do in a dream state or as a remote viewer or anything like that, that's really where the energy is coming from. The power plant for it really is the heart. So I like how you made that connection also with feeling and connection and compassion, engagement with people, with relationships that you have with the world, the service that you can be of to others. Dude, you do those things. And the other gifts, you might call them gifts of the spirit, those things will open up to you. They'll often happen spontaneously. I know other people who try to do it through intellect and ego, and they get nowhere with it, or the progress they do make opens them up to experiences that are dark. It's like they're stuffed back into their body. No, you haven't learned the most essential lesson yet. So no, you are not allowed to have these experiences. You can try to force them. You can sit there and Aleister Crowley it all you want to, try to call up some kind of dark mojo or make your will so powerful that you can override the natural laws of the universe. Sure, go ahead and try it. Or focus on being a good person, opening your heart, being receptive to people in the world, to animals especially, and you'll find that these things naturally happen for you. And of course, it helps to, meditate and lucid dreaming practices, reality checks, and maybe you can do some hemi-sync and some binaural beats while you're at it. Sure, help it along. But in the end, it's all coming from that place inside of you. If it comes from your heart, then it will happen spontaneously. Pretty cool, huh?
It is.
You don't have
cool,
to work at it too hard.
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't have to. And things like, yeah, man, we could go into that forever. But I know we got a few minutes, man. So I really want you to. What are you doing for this Halloween, by the way? Just you going out with the family, or what's up?
I think that we will put on some spooky music here at the home. And we might have, break out a few Halloween decorations and eat some Reese's cups. 2020 has been scary enough without having to break out, anything to make it any scarier or darker than it's already been. And so we are, it's like we've been living Halloween for the last, 7 months. So I don't think we need to do anything special. So yeah, man, that's the plan, is to hunker down at home. I know you're having a big Fringe Fest, right? It sounded pretty cool from what I saw on the radio on your website, man. It sounded like a cool thing. What are you guys doing?
Well, we got a whole bunch of speakers and stuff, man, doing it. That's why I was, I wanted you to do it too. Remember, I asked you about coming on and talking about nightmares and stuff, and then it just kind of blew up really fast. So you're like, to be honest with you, you're kind of like kicking off the Fringe Fest in a way, because it starts tomorrow night.
Right on.
But then I got so many regulars that I like to bring. Like you're a regular I bring on the show. There's a few other people I like to bring on the show that I'm thinking about maybe one day doing like a LTV thing just on its own, lighting the void thing with these people like you and Ian and a couple other people, Mary Ducina, there's a few people, Anthony Tyler, and really getting down into this stuff, because honestly, I'm all about conscious exploration too, but I'm also about connecting and on a deeper level with people, where I feel like whatever, like this veil that we're going through that's super thin, by the way, the last question I'm going to ask you and then we can plug away, is during this time, is it well known in the dream world and in the dream community that Halloween is a time for contacting things spiritually in the dream world? Do things get weird, or is it any different at all?
When the veil is thin, yes and no. I think for most people, these are things that are outside of their awareness. It's not reflected in the content of their dreams as much, or they don't recognize it. For people who are sensitive and aware of these things, then this is a good time for you to see what is on the other side of the veil. If that's what you want to do, this is definitely a good time to do it. And this Halloween in particular, with that big blue full moon that we're going to have, there's a lot of mojo working right now. So if you can harness that and use it for your pursuits, then I would say yes, go for it. The veil from the other side, I'm learning more and more that it's true, that there is this separation between us, or as Jung says, it's a continuum. The other side is, spirit, consciousness, psyche, there is something that is separating us from a whole nother reality that is it's right there, and it's just waiting for us to get curious enough to find out what it's all about. And sometimes it's as simple as asking before you go to bed to start off with the experience of dreaming about it, and to have the guidance to get you into that space in a responsible sort of way, in a way that doesn't blow your mind or disconnect you from daily reality. The higher the tree grows, the deeper its roots go. And I tell people who want to have these experiences that they need to be deeply rooted in the reality of their daily life. And that includes especially engaging with what's around them, the people and the creatures, such as their pets and other animals. And that will give you the roots that you need to then be able to reach out and have these experiences on the other side.
Well, man, we are running late. We got to get out of here. Can you plug away, sir, please? Thanks for spending this time with us.
Dreamschool.net, my pleasure. Dreamschool.net, jmdebord.com. Go to dreamschool.net. If you really want to learn about dream interpretation, I have all these online courses there. If you want the freebie route, I'm happy to share it, dreams123.com. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Joe, for having me back on. Happy Halloween, or Samhain as it's known. And everybody stay safe out there.
Thank you for coming on. Well, we guys got to get out of here. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Make sure you come out to the Fringe Fest. We'll be back next week. Come hang out with us, thefringefest.com. Good night.